There are moments in history that whisper and moments that roar. And right now, the earth is roaring. This year alone, relentless heat waves dried the land to tinder in California. And when the fires came, entire settlements turned to ash. The sky is so red, it looked like the end of days. And closer to home, in New Delhi, a city to 20 million people, schools were forced to shut down because the air was poison. Doctors called it a gas chamber. Well, the reason is not a mystery. Fossil fuels. They are finite, they're polluting, and they're dangerous. And dangerous not just to our environment, but also to our national security. When India bought cheap oil from Russia, the United States answered with tariffs. Energy is not just electricity, it's politics, it's power. So, what options do we have? Nuclear? Well, ask the families of Chernobyl, ask the people of Fukushima. One accident and the entire city can be reduced and become unlivable for centuries. Hydro, look at Tehri Dam, an entire valley submerged, tens and thousands of people evacuated from their lands, a river silenced. Wind, fantastic in locations which allow it, but not in Goa, not in most parts of India. And yet, up there is a star that shines brightly, gives us enough energy in an hour that the entire of humanity requires for a year. That star doesn't spill, it doesn't pollute, it doesn't explode. And it's been our oldest companion. And its light solar is the most democratic power source ever discovered. But here's the truth, guys. Solar panels alone will not save us. What we need are blueprints to a more sustainable living. And over the last few years, I've seen people like you and me here in Goa creating those blueprints. In Aldona, a serene village in Goa, lives Savio Figueiredo. When I visited, Savio gave me his most prized possession, a jackfruit from his garden. On his rooftop, solar panels. In his backyard, luscious fruits and vegetables. Pipes that feed his well with rainwater. It wasn't just a home, it was a self sustaining ecosystem. Then in Ponda, I met the trustees of a social institution. They openly spoke about Kalyug, a time when wars would be fought not just with armies, but with energy, food, and water. So they designed all their buildings to survive this disruption. Walls built out of natural materials that breathe, rooms so cool that you could leave away the air conditioning. Courtyards that welcomed daylight, and solar panels that charged high density batteries not for luxury, but for necessity. They called it preparation. I call it wisdom. And then in Dabolim, I met a gentleman who lived in an apartment. No roof space for solar panels, and most of us would just do nothing. But he co invested with a homeowner nearby, and today both of them have reduced electricity bills. This is because of Goa's virtual net metering policy, a tool that allows neighbors to share electricity. Well, that story isn't about technology, it's about partnerships. And all these three stories, they aren't isolated stories. They hold hint to what the future can look like. Goa a tiny state, barely a speck on the map, is today discovering the future of sustainability. And here's the biggest story worth sharing. If Goa, with its limited resources, can do this, imagine what the world can. Because imagine if homeowners across the world built like Savio, rooftops generating electricity, uh, gardens feeding families, and uh, and you have rainwater recharging wells. Imagine if schools and hospitals built with the wisdom of the Social Institute in Ponda, courtyards that welcome daylight, solar charged batteries that kept the lights on even when the world was plunged in darkness. And imagine if our cities, where most of us now live vertically, followed the spirit of the gentleman in Dabulan, where they were free to choose their energy from wherever it may come from. This isn't science fiction. These are choices being made here, today, in Goa. And these hold lessons for the world. Because across the globe, I see the same blueprint emerging. In Germany, farmers are growing crops under solar panels that increase the yield by 20% and give the farmers an additional source of income. Goa shows us that sustainability doesn't need mega projects. It can begin in homes, in schools, and in small partnerships between neighbors. And if Goa, with its limited size and limited resources, can reimagine energy, food, and water, then what excuse does the rest of the world have? And I say this not just with data, but I say this for my lungs. As a child, I suffered severe asthma. Every breath felt like dragging air through a clogged straw. I felt helpless. And for most of the time, I believe what we are told, that development comes with sacrifice. That polluted air and poisoned lungs are simply a price that we need to pay for progress. But then during a work trip to Finland, I saw something extraordinary. Countries that grew their economy while protecting the environment. And that realization brought me back home in 2013 to dedicate my life to solar, to dedicate my life to breathing freely. And in just 5 years, Goa has installed 77 megawatts of solar, equivalent to planting 3.5 million trees. Ladies and gentlemen, we have one earth, one shot, one chance at returning it better than we received it. The good news is we have the technology, we have the knowledge, and slowly we are developing the consciousness. What we lack is the time. The future of sustainability will not be written only in boardrooms and in parliaments. It will be written in rooftops that generate electricity, in courtyards that welcome daylight, in schools that run on sunshine, and in communities that choose resilience over dependence. And who writes that history? Not oil barons, not politicians, but citizens. You, me, us. Because in the end, the legacy that really matters isn't what we leave behind in our bank accounts. It's what we leave behind in the soil that we protect, in the air that we keep clean, and in the sunshine that we choose to share. And that is Goa's message to the world. And it can be ours too. Thank you.